Sean Chandler here, and this is my quick review of Valley Girl, the 2020 remake of the early 80s Nicolas Cage film called Valley Girl that essentially tells the story of a girl from the valley who ends up finding herself infatuated with a guy from the wrong side of town, which her friends and parents don't understand, and they have this romance that they social pressure that is pulling them apart. It stars Jessica Rothe from the Happy Death Day movies. And this remake is actually done by the cast of the movie, as well as just using some of the songs. It's a very music-heavy film. And for me, I found it to be good enough without being particularly memorable. The thing that probably was its saving grace was the fact that it was a musical. It's just so lively infused with energetic, catchy, because it just moves very quickly from song to song, beat to beat, and energetic sequence to energetic sequence. But the thing that holds the movie back is that it is just so painfully by the numbers. It's a type of story that we've seen many times before, and you can kind of predict exactly kind of how it's going to play out. The two people meet each other, they immediately have chemistry, but they're wrong for each other. You know exactly where it's leading. The exact moment in movies like this where certain things are supposed to happen and breakups happen, it all falls right into the exact template and formula that you're expecting. And while the cast is all smiley enough, likable enough, the script itself doesn't really have like much of a spark to it that itself distinguishes itself from every other movie like this, besides the fact that it is a musical, and that's kind of one of the things that I think helps it along. Other thing that specifically for this one kind of frustrated me is that the Jessica Rothe she's like 33 years old. She's only like 5 years younger than me, and I'm almost 40. Now, I know they shot the movie a few years back, but that would make her like 30 years old when she was playing a high schooler. And in the story itself, it kind of bookends with Alicia Silverstone basically being the grown-up version of Jessica Rothe's character. So Alicia Silverstone, who's only about 44, 45 years old, is supposedly the 30-plus-year-older version of Jessica Rothe, who's like 30 years old. There's only like a 12-year age difference between them. But in the movie, it's supposed to be like 30-plus years for playing the same character. And Hollywood has always kind of done this. They've always had people that were way too old playing high schoolers and funny stuff like this. But when you specifically have someone like Alicia Silverstone, whose most defining role is Clueless, where she plays the quintessential mid-90s high school girl. And then you have her playing supposedly an early 80s high school girl. It calls attention to it. Her past filmography calls attention to the fact that, wait, there's a pretty big discrepancy here. Likewise, Jessica Rothe's kind of defining thing that she's known for is Happy Death Day, where she played a college student 3-4 years ago. And so it's just the things that call to mind when I think about these people. My brain immediately sees sees the discrepancy there. And some movies I can get away with it if I'm not familiar enough with the actor or different things like that. But in this case, there were just certain things that made it so obvious. Likewise, Judy Greer plays, I think, Jessica Rothe's mom, I believe, back in the early 80s. And once again, she's 44 years old, 45 years old. And Jessica Rothe in her 30s. And so another one is what just like, I just paid too much attention to it. And all like Logan Paul is in the movie and he's like 25. And so he's the closest to being appropriately aged, but he still doesn't really look like a high schooler because he's like a pretty muscular guy in a way that high schoolers very rarely are. So it might feel like nitpicking, and maybe it is, but that's my honest experience watching the movie, is that I like immediately was called attention to the ages. And so in general, I wouldn't mind it if it's a movie that my wife decided to rewatch, but it's not a movie that I would ever be like, oh, I'm going to put on Valley Girl and rewatch that one. It's just good enough, so I would give it a C+. Tell me what you thought down below in the comment section. Was it your thing, or did you hate it, or you just skipped this one entirely and haven't even heard of it? Let me know down below. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies too much.